Did you find any evidence at all of that?
No evidence at all. I mean, there are lots of allegations, but no evidence to substantiate anything like that.
For decades, Prince Edward was the quietest voice in the royal family. While others made headlines, he stayed in the background, watching silently as history unfolded around him. He didn't chase the spotlight. He avoided it. But behind the silence was a man holding something back. Now, after years of staying quiet, Prince Edward has finally broken that silence with a revelation about Princess Diana that no one saw coming. Why speak now, and what truth has he carried all these years? Join us as we explore the words that could change how we see both Prince Edward and Diana forever. The royal family's wall of silence. For years the royal family operated behind closed doors. Calm on the outside, tightly held together by tradition on the inside. From trooping the colour to the state opening of Parliament, the royal family has countless customs. But while it's existed for centuries, some of its traditions haven't quite stood the test of time. They didn't explain. They didn't complain. And that quiet nature kept their reputation intact. But when Diana entered the picture, that wall of silence started to crack. At first she dazzled the world, a young woman suddenly royal with charm and warmth that the cameras couldn't get enough of. But behind the palace walls, the fairy tale wasn't holding. Tensions grew. Diana was struggling, and the people inside the family saw it, especially Edward. Edward was rarely in the spotlight. He did not fill headlines like his brothers Charles and Andrew, but that gave him a unique view. He was close enough to see the storm gathering, and what he saw would change the way he viewed everything. Stay with us. In 1981, when Diana married into the family, Edward was still figuring out his path. He didn't follow the same route as his brothers. While they were signing up for military service, Prince Edward was exploring the world of arts, working briefly as a stage manager and pursuing creative work. As the Queen's youngest son, he was part of the royal house projects but also on the side. And from where he stood, he saw what others missed. He noticed the shift. Diana wasn't like the other royal family members. She didn't just attend royal events, she connected with people, often breaking protocol to do so. And while the world was falling in love with her, Edward was watching how her presence challenged everything the monarchy was built on. Diana did things differently. She broke the mold. She hugged people with AIDS. There was that infamous moment at the pediatric AIDS unit in Harlem when she hugged a 7-year-old boy with AIDS. Now, that broke so many barriers for so many different reasons. When others were afraid to, she walked through active minefields. Diana even opened up about her mental health and what she was going through behind closed doors. To many people, she was brave and compassionate. But to someone like Edward, someone who believed in keeping the royal image intact, it looked like a problem. And that was where the cracks began to build from. So keep watching to find out how Edward reacted to these changes. Prince Edward, on the other hand, followed the rules. He believed in the system. In his view, the monarchy worked because it stayed steady, even when everything else was shaking. So when it came to Diana's openness, it was something he couldn't always understand. It wasn't just that they saw things differently, they lived their roles in completely opposite ways. As time went on, those differences only grew stronger. While there were no public feuds between them, behind the scenes there was distance. Some insiders claim that Prince Edward's relationship with Diana was anything but close. While Diana was a dominant and powerful figure in the royal family, Edward was known to be wary of her and kept his distance. One major source of tension between them was their differing views on key issues, parenting style being one of them. Edward, who is known for his loyalty to family tradition and discretion, reportedly did not hold Diana in high regard, partly influenced by the views of Prince Philip. Edward believed that Diana's very public struggles and openness about private family issues caused significant problems for the royal family's reputation. And yet, it wasn't all cold. Even in their differences, there were moments where Edward respected what Diana brought to the table. He saw how she could turn a spotlight onto people and issues no one was paying attention to. But those rare moments of agreement were often overshadowed by the growing tension in the family and between Diana and the institution itself. However, as Diana and Charles's marriage crumbled, the divorce hit everyone, including Edward. While the tabloids ran endless stories and the public picked sides, Edward was still trying to find his place. He wasn't just a royal, he was trying to build his own identity. That included his short-lived time with Ardent Productions, a move that some saw as an escape from royal pressure. But stepping outside the firm wasn't easy. And all the while, Diana's influence and the drama surrounding it kept growing. She became a global figure. He remained in the background. But that contrast made their relationship even more interesting. While she embodied change, Edward represented tradition. One pulled the spotlight closer, the other stepped away from it. As the years went on, the differences between them became even clearer. Diana gave emotional interviews, raw, revealing, and unlike anything the royals had done before. Edward stuck to the old ways. He showed up, did his work, and stayed quiet. Even when he supported important causes, he didn't draw attention to himself. That quietness wasn't just a personality trait, it was a choice. He believed in keeping things private. She believed in speaking the truth, even if it affected the system. Do you think you'll ever be queen? No, I don't. No. Why do you think that? I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts. It's in people's hearts. But I don't see myself being queen of this country. And that gap between them was hard to ignore. Still, Edward wasn't part of the public scandals. He wasn't giving interviews or making headlines. But he saw it all happen. And even though he stayed silent, the experience left its mark. Then something unexpected happened. Princess Diana was involved in an accident. And that moment changed everything. Stay tuned, because what happened next will shock you. Prince Edward's confession about Diana's death. On Saturday, August 30th, 1997, Princess Diana flew from Olia Airport in Sardinia on a private jet. She was with Dodi Fayed, an Egyptian film sure. Here's your text converted into properly structured paragraphs without skipping or adding any words, exactly as requested. Producer and the son of businessman Mohammed Al-Federal. They wanted to get away from the media and have some peace. They arrived in Paris at Labor Airport, but the paparazzi were still following them. That night, August 31st, Diana, Dodi, and their driver Henri Paul tried to avoid the photographers again. They left the Ritz Hotel through a back door hoping to lose the media. But as they drove through the Pont d'Alma tunnel at high speed, their car crashed. Princess Diana died in the crash. So did Dodi Fayed and the driver. That moment shocked the world and changed the royal family forever. Good evening. The princess who spent her life in the relentless glare of the public eye in a speeding car in Paris, apparently trying to evade pursuing photographers. After that moment, the whole world went into mourning. Many people felt sorry for Diana's children because they were still very young. But there was someone else who wasn't noticed by the public, Edward, the Duke of Wessex. Even though Edward and Diana had their differences, he secretly had feelings for his brother's ex-wife. So to Edward, it felt like he was losing a sister-in-law and someone he cared about deeply. So that feeling made Edward finally speak out about what really happened on the night of August 31st. Keep watching. There's still more to this story. In 1999, 2 years after the crash, Prince Edward started to question everything. He started a call for transparency. His mission was simple: what killed Diana? Because of the pressure he was placing on the press and police, the truth started to surface, or at least what the authorities wanted the world to believe. A French investigation claimed that Henri Paul, the driver that night, was intoxicated. They said he lost control of the car because of alcohol and prescription drugs. Paul wasn't just a driver. He was the deputy head of security at the Ritz Hotel. Some witnesses even said he had been showing off to the paparazzi earlier that night. Antidepressants and traces of antipsychotic medication were later found in his system, making his condition even worse. But Edward was not yet satisfied. He still had doubts, quiet ones. He couldn't shake the feeling that something didn't add up. Why was no one asking deeper questions? Why did the story feel incomplete? Now his curiosity and outspokenness helped prompt the British inquest. In 2008, Operation Page gave its verdict, unlawful killing. That's what the jury called it. They blamed Henri Paul and the paparazzi chasing the car. Still, the public was left wondering. Some reports tried to explain why Trevor Rees-Jones, the bodyguard, survived. They said he was wearing a seat belt. But Edward knew what the investigators later confirmed: no one in the car was wearing one, not even Diana. As the investigation started to quiet down, another surprising detail came out. Some sources revealed that Princess Diana had once written a report saying someone was trying to kill her. Now what's even shocking about this is the person she accused. The person she named was Prince Charles. When Prince Edward and a few others who were still searching for answers heard this, they asked a simple question: why would she think that? The answer seemed to point to one person, Camilla, the woman Prince Charles had been having an affair with for years. Some people believe that if Diana's fear was real, then removing her could have made things easier for Charles and Camilla to be together without public problems. Whether or not that's true, one thing is certain: Diana felt unsafe. She believed she was in trouble. And when she needed help the most, no one was there for her. But Edward didn't stop there. He had more to share about Diana's life and her truth. So don't go anywhere. Edward talks about Diana's legacy. After years of silence and quiet reflection, Edward didn't just speak about Diana's death alone. He went further. He began to open up about something deeper, something more lasting: her legacy. Because while the world remembers the tragedy, Edward saw the impact. And for the first time, he admitted what many never expected to hear: that Diana, in her own way, changed the monarchy forever. At first, he didn't want to say it, because the word legacy is a big word in royal circles. It's usually reserved for monarchs, not those who walked away from the crown. But Diana was different. Her legacy wasn't built from a throne. It was built from her heart. And Edward, who had always believed in tradition, began to understand that what Diana left behind was something no royal title could define. He admitted that even though they didn't always agree, Diana's work shook something loose in the royal institution. She connected with the people in a way no royal ever had before. She made the monarchy feel human. The Princess of Wales knew the value of human connection and was often seen going against the mold of the traditional royal protocol, humanizing the monarch and capturing the hearts of people around the world. And that, to Edward, was both powerful and dangerous. Edward didn't use big speeches or interviews. But in quiet conversations in close circles, Edward began to speak about what he had seen. And what he remembered most wasn't the headline. It was the heart. Diana, he said, was different from the start. She wasn't just a royal figure. She was a force of change. And even though their relationship wasn't close, Edward now sees just how powerful her presence really was. One of the most powerful things Edward recalled was Diana's work with people living with HIV and AIDS. In 1987, she made history when she shook hands without gloves with an AIDS patient, at a time when fear and misinformation were everywhere. That moment changed public attitudes. It helped end the stigma. Edward said the memory stayed with him, acknowledging that what happened required not just compassion, but real bravery. He also remembered Diana's powerful work in Angola in 1997, walking through an active minefield with the Halo Trust to bring attention to the dangers of landmines. That moment was captured on camera and broadcast around the world. It put pressure on governments and helped lead to the International Mine Ban Treaty later that year. Edward, who has always believed in careful diplomacy, now sees how Diana's bold actions made a difference. He explained that she didn't ask for approval. She simply acted on what she believed was the right thing to do. But Diana's legacy, according to Edward, wasn't just about public moments. It was also about the private ones, the moments most people never saw. He talked about how Diana devoted herself to the sick, the lonely, and those overlooked, not to gain attention, but out of genuine care for them. Edward reflected on how Diana would sneak into hospitals late at night just to comfort children. How she wrote personal letters to families she met. How she stayed in touch with charity workers long after the events were over. To Edward, these small acts said more than any newspaper ever could. But here comes the twist. He also spoke about the way Diana raised her sons William and Harry. Diana was determined that they wouldn't grow up in a royal bubble. She took them to homeless shelters, to hospitals, even to fast food restaurants. She wanted them to understand the real world. Edward said he noticed that early on. And now, looking at the way both princes carry themselves, he sees that Diana's lessons stayed with them. Edward remarked that William carries her quiet resilience while Harry embodies her passionate spirit. Edward admitted that back then the royal family didn't always understand Diana. Her openness, her emotion, her refusal to follow old rules, it made many people uncomfortable, including him. He further explained that they were taught to keep personal matters private, but Diana revealed her true self to the world. Initially, he feared this might harm the monarchy, but over time he realized she didn't weaken it. She made it more relatable and human. Edward said Diana's openness about her mental health struggles was especially important. In 1995, during her famous interview with the BBC's Panorama, she spoke candidly about her battle with depression and bulimia. It was shocking at the time. The royals didn't talk about such things, but Diana did. And in doing so, she gave millions of people permission to speak about their own struggles. According to Edward, Diana's openness was groundbreaking and helped people feel more understood and less isolated. But it did not stop there. Edward also talked about how Diana worked with more than 100 charities, including Centrepoint, the Royal Marsden Hospital, and the Leprosy Mission. Her commitment wasn't just for show. She visited patients, met with doctors, and made real contributions to the causes she supported. Edward acknowledged that he didn't always agree with her approach at the time. But looking back, he recognizes the difference she made. She went beyond supporting causes. She truly transformed lives. Now the question that many people began to ask was this: why now? Well, we are about to find out how Diana's legacy shaped the royal house. When Edward was asked that question, many expected the usual carefully crafted response filled with long-winded praise for himself and the current leadership of the royal family. But what he said caught everyone off guard. He revealed that the real reason behind his revelations wasn't about the present. It was about the future. Edward made it clear his motivation was the legacy of Princess Diana. He wanted the next generation of royal leaders to remember who she was, not just as a mother or a princess but as a symbol of compassion, truth, and change. He believed that Diana's legacy would be crucial to how the royal family would lead in the years to come. But now the real question is this: are the future leaders truly walking the path Diana paved? The answer might surprise you. So stay tuned. When we look at Diana's two children, who are the heir to the throne, we find that their mother's legacy has shaped them into distinct individuals with different personalities. For Prince William, it has brought a sense of fear. And one of Prince William's biggest fears after marrying Kate Middleton was that she might suffer the same fate as his mother, Princess Diana. People often compare Kate to Diana. And while some of these comparisons are kind, they also bring pressure and worry. William has always been protective of his wife, and he doesn't want her to face the same pain, stress, or media pressure that haunted his mother. This fear grew stronger when Kate, now the Princess of Wales, was diagnosed with cancer in March 2024. Now, in the United Kingdom, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has announced that she has cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. Her condition was disclosed in a video message. Kate Middleton later announced that she had completed her chemotherapy in September. The type of cancer hasn't been shared publicly, but Kate revealed that she had become emotionally attached to her port, the device used to give her medicine. Many cancer patients feel this way because they grow close to the medical team that supports them. And from then on, William has been able to embrace his fears and channel them into something that honors his mother's legacy. So Prince William took action, and in 2016 William, alongside Catherine and Prince Harry, stepped forward with a bold new initiative, Heads Together. This wasn't just another royal campaign. It was deeply personal. It was about changing how the UK talked about mental health. They appeared in videos. They talked to students, soldiers, and celebrities. The goal was simple: remove the shame. Let people know it's okay to not be okay. What made it different was how invested William was. This wasn't just a photo op. Prince William trained behind the scenes as a crisis volunteer and helped launch Shout, the UK's first 24/7 mental health crisis text line. From rural farming towns to boardrooms, William kept showing up. His message was clear: healing begins when we stop hiding. But while William was stepping up, another royal storm was brewing behind palace doors. Camilla and Catherine were at odds, and it was no secret among insiders. Camilla had waited decades for her place beside Charles to be accepted. And now, Catherine's rising popularity threatened to overshadow her. Reports suggested that Camilla often saw Catherine as too middle class, despite Kate's loyalty and discretion. Tensions increased when Kate was praised publicly for her grace and work ethic, something Camilla felt was meant to contrast her own image. At royal engagements, sharp glances and cold exchanges hinted at the friction. Camilla wanted control. Catherine wanted peace. And now she may not want to pass down the title of Queen Consort to Catherine. But behind the palace smiles, there was strain. And while all that tension played out in public and behind closed doors, Prince Harry was finding his own path through action, not speeches. In 2014, Harry launched the Invictus Games, an international sporting event for wounded, injured, and sick military personnel and veterans. Inspired by the strength and determination he witnessed during a trip to the Warrior Games in the US, Harry wanted to create something bigger, something global. A space where those who served could be seen not for their injuries, but for their resilience. The first Invictus Games were held in London. Then came Orlando, Toronto, Sydney, and beyond. Each time, hundreds of athletes competed. Men and women who had lost limbs, suffered PTSD, or faced invisible scars. And every time, Harry was right there with them, cheering, listening, reminding them they weren't broken, they were invincible. Through Invictus, Harry didn't just honor veterans. He created a movement. He gave them a voice, a stage. And in doing so, he carried on Diana's mission, seeing the unseen, lifting up the forgotten. Today, both brothers carry Diana's legacy, but in profoundly different ways. William reshaped the monarchy's role in mental health, bringing compassion to the crown. Harry built a global platform through Invictus, turning suffering into strength for wounded warriors around the world. And maybe it all comes back to what Edward said about Diana, because he wasn't just speaking about the past. He was pointing to the future. Because Diana's legacy was never meant to be buried with her. It was meant to be carried forward, not in a crown, but in compassion. Not in titles, but in truth. She didn't just leave behind a memory. She left behind a mirror. And now, it's up to us to decide what we see when we look into it. So what do you think about what Edward said about Diana? And most importantly, what are your thoughts on Diana's legacy? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also click the following video on your screen and you will enjoy it.